BruCast is back, baby.
This BruCast episode is brought to you by the BruCast store. Explore a store filled with awesome goodies from hoodies to t-shirts to mugs. We've got you covered. Stay in style with BruCast. Embrace the shock, set the trend. Visit now bru-cast.com/store. Link below.
Back with the fire, can't you see the flames? From Deutschland steps comes the BruCast name. Voices like thunder breaking all the chains. Unleash the fury like a runaway train.
Alright, hi everyone, welcome back to another BruCast episode. If it's your first time watching the show, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're listening to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please rate the show 5 stars. This will ensure that the podcast recommends to even more people and allow me to keep doing what I love. BruCast also on Instagram, X, and TikTok, where I upload shorts with the highlights of the show. So follow now, BruCast on Instagram, X, and TikTok. Links in the description below.
Back here we thrive, we survive!
Alright, we're back. You know what's up, I know what's up. It's time to talk about this month giveaway. Yes, as long as you subscribe and comment, you might win this beautiful, sexy, amazing t-shirt. We're gonna announce the winner at the end of this month, so stay tuned. And it's a worldwide giveaway. We have been doing that a lot of them so far. It has been a huge success, and you guys been enjoying. You guys have been subscribing, been commenting, and we're gonna keep doing it. So subscribe, comment, and stay tuned for this month's giveaway at the end of the month. All right, so today's guest is Vic Lagina. Vic Lagina is one of Las Vegas' most prolific pornographer. Oh my god. I'm sorry, guys. Pornographers, having filmed nearly 4,000 scenes over 2 decades for industry giants like Brazzers and PornHub. His wild journey, told in Filthy, dives into the rise of internet porn, the chaos behind the scenes, and his struggle to balance success, sanity, and love in a world of endless sex and excess. All right, man, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you? That was a hell of an intro. Thank you. You were blushing a little bit during it, I think.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, we don't talk about. To be honest, we had one guest once. Maybe you know her. Her name's Lila, the Secret Girl Diaries. We had her once. We talked about sex. The whole podcast was very interesting, but I also blushed a little bit.
Yeah. Well, it's a topic that some are uncomfortable with.
Oh, a little bit, but I think it's important. I mean, we all do it. What's the problem?
I agree. Even the people who are most like anti-porn seem to be the ones like the closet freaks that are watching it and in secret while hating it in public.
Yeah, I mean, it's not socially acceptable. Hey, you know this amazing porn that I watched yesterday? I mean, everyone does it. Come on. You see the kids nowadays, they have smartphones at 13 years. I'm not saying they should. Not saying, but they do it. Come on, they watch it.
Yeah. Well, that was that's a hot topic these days, especially with age verification laws everywhere. But truth is, I mean, I'm an older guy from the Generation X, and we got it in other ways, whether it was a friend's porn stash or it was summer camp counselors bringing their smut mags, like their glossies, their hustler magazines, their screw magazines. I mean, that's how I got my education. It's just different. It's just that I think it's very accessible, maybe too accessible. And so that's why it's such a hot debate right now.
Yeah, there's this phrase that I heard once. I don't know who said it. Like a regular teenager nowadays, they saw more like tits and butts that a king saw throughout his whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that, and that's because it's become so widespread and so easy to access on the internet. But I think that's about to change. It is changing, actually. It's changing stateside, and it's also changing in countries in Europe. They're putting in the age verification laws.
Oh, really? Is that a thing? Because nowadays I know that a lot of those porn sites, they have, "Are you 18?" pop up, and then of course you say yes. But
Yep.
so what is changing?
So a lot of states here in the United States are enacting you have to put in your ID to get through that first page. And a lot of people are very uptight about that. And so far, the company that I worked for, they own Pornhub, and they are blocking access to a lot of those states that have passed age verification laws. They say it's an invasion of privacy. I call bullshit, because the reality is when you buy something or you have a membership, you put in your information and you don't think twice about it. So this whole thing about user or fraud, like people using identities for fraud and all that, I don't think so. I think the reality is that if you are mandated to put your information into a website, most people are going to say no. They're going to click off. They're going to go someplace else, and Pornhub is not going to get that traffic. So that is why they are like blocking access. But there's a workaround for it. The VPNs. You could be in a state like Florida, have a VPN, and then you can access any porn site you want.
Yeah, there's so many of them. Let's say Pornhub start putting those walls into place, right? It doesn't take any effort for you to just check another one, like
Yeah.
why not?
Yeah, well, I see it like this. I mean, look, when I was younger, there you go to the video store, there was the 18 and over section. And
Mhm.
so that was like the guardrail of whether or not you could buy it, or like the magazines in like a 7-Eleven were behind the counter. And that is what, that was the block. Well, now there is no block. So that is today's block, really. And I don't know, man, you got to buy booze. You need to present an ID. You got to buy alcohol. You got to present an ID. Porn really isn't that different.
Hmm.
So I'm not really against these age verification laws. But then again, I'm not someone who goes on Pornhub or tube sites anymore, because I've seen enough of that over my career.
All right, so I'm not sure if you understand it. You don't work with it anymore?
No, I'm done. I'm
You're
done.
done.
Yeah, so I was in it for about 20 years, which is a very long time. I mean, in porn years, that's like dog years, really. One porn year is like 7 years of human life, because that's how much it takes out of you. But the truth is that when COVID hit in 2020, the business changed forever. And I was kind of at the end of my rope anyway. The third ownership of the company that I had worked for 16 years, they sucked all of the joy out of the job over time. And I was just getting to the end of my rope. And the money was good. The money kept me in it. But I sensed that things were going to become even more difficult and even more frustrating. So it was time for me to leave. And to be honest with you, leaving probably saved my life, because, like, in order to cope, you do a lot of drugs, you drink a lot. And I very well may not be here if COVID didn't hit and we kept shooting, because I would have figured out how to make it through. But there's a lot of bad shit in drugs these days, and I could have been a victim of that.
Oh my God. Well,
Yeah.
I don't want to say thanks COVID, but it kind of helps you in a way.
Yeah, no, I'm grateful for it. I look at the positives in all of it. But there was times even afterwards where I left the studio system and I was shooting for girls in their OnlyFans, and it was a completely different day. But it was clear to me, like, my skill set, which was producing high quality porn, because I'm versed in production, it was no longer needed on the OnlyFans level. If people wanted to watch high quality porn, they would just go to a site like Brazzers or Vixen or otherwise. But with OnlyFans, they just really want to have like the behind the scenes, kind of like the stalkerish look at what goes on, what their favorite performer does. And that's the upside of OnlyFans.
Wow. So in your words, you would say that OnlyFans is low quality porn.
Yeah, because I mean, all you need is a phone. Performer, all they need their phone. Hey, this is what I'm eating. This is what my shower looks like. This is what my bathroom looks like. And for people who are like obsessive about a certain performer, well, this is like crack for them. They're like, oh yeah, more. Yeah. It's it's very interesting. But everything is due for a correction. The correction happened in the pandemic when the money from the studios and all of their membership was transferring over to the performers and their OnlyFans. But then everyone was deciding, oh, let me just start my OnlyFans. I'll make a lot of money. And in doing so, they kind of super saturated the porn market. So I was trying to get girls to hire me to give them that Brazzers quality for their OnlyFans, but they said that their fans didn't really want that.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's so interesting.
yeah,
And I mean, you look at those girls, they have millions. Like some of them, they get millions and millions of dollars. It's
yeah.
it's insane. Insane,
It's
especially
insane.
they're so young. Like I don't know, I don't know how healthy this is, you know.
Well, you hope that they have a good financial advisor. You hope they have a good accountant. You hope that they're paying their taxes. You hope that they're saving money because it's not going to last forever. It isn't. Like everything does come to an end, which is what I figured out. I knew that my career wasn't going to go on forever. That eventually, I was riding the porn wave for a very long time, and the wave just kept on going and going and going. And I envisioned that I was just going to take like a nasty tumble and like crash onto that beach and get like scraped up by rocks. But the truth is, the airplane was on fire, but I landed it safely and I got out alive. And that's the key part.
That's so funny because I'm not part of this industry, right? So this is extremely interesting. As far as as an outsider, I would imagine that the porn industry is better than ever because of the internet and everyone has access to it. So you mentioned this word saturated.
Mhm.
So when did that happen and why did it happen? Did it happen because of OnlyFans during the COVID time?
Yeah, yeah. When once everyone
Okay.
realized how much money was being made, and also you got to think about something: people were out of work, or they were furloughed, or they lost their jobs, or they couldn't do their jobs, or sometimes they were even working from home. So this whole OnlyFans was booming, and the girl's like, maybe I'll take pictures of my feet, or maybe they, were comfortable being naked. I'll tell you this: if you're a savvy businesswoman or businessman, and you have a little bit of a stripper mentality where you know how to milk the customer, you can make a shitload of money on OnlyFans, but you have to stay with it. It's a job. It doesn't come instant. You got to build this thing up. You have to have a following. But if you know how to do it and you know how to do it effectively, yes, you can make a ton of money. But that is a very low percentage of the general population of OnlyFans.
Really? What is the big percentage then?
Well, they're making, a couple hundred a month instead of like thousands a month
Oh,
or hundreds of thousands a month as some are doing.
really?
Yeah.
Dude, I had no idea. I thought they were all like filthy rich.
No, no. The thing is if someone time wise, they were in the studio porn system, say from like, let's say between 2006 to like 2020, and they had built a brand and they built a following, and everyone really loved them because they were these big porn stars. And then COVID hits and they decide, you know what? I'm not shooting for studios. I'm going to take the brand that I built when they were in the trenches of porn. And
Hmm.
now they are just going to take all those fans and then charge a monthly membership. And then there's other ways on top of it. There is, doing custom videos. There are doing, you ever hear of dick ratings?
What? Dick ratings? No.
So I don't understand the psychology of this. I don't understand how a man would pay a woman to rate their dick, like show their dick and like, hey, here's like $100, here's $200, rate my dick on a scale of 1 to 10. But it happens. It happens. It's like everything. Like I was baffled by humankind during my whole time in porn, and that hasn't changed because what I see now with OnlyFans and what people want and what the requests are, I'm like, man, people are weird.
Dick ratings. So that's happening on OnlyFans. You can do that.
Yes, you could do that. Let's say you have a favorite performer. You could say, "Hey, I would like one dick rating, please," and you pay the money, and you would get a clip, like a 1 minute clip that would, give like the honest assessment of the dick. But one thing that I found is, like a lot of dudes like have no problem sending their dick to people, whether it's solicited or
Yeah,
unsolicited.
what's
Like
up with that? I don't get.
I have no idea, dude. But like you don't send unsolicited dick pics. You just don't do that. It's just not. It's not good code for a man. Let's just put it that way. But I still I still want to know these people who are sending their dicks and paying a fee to have it rated. And some of them like they want the one critiquing to be brutally honest. And if it's a bad dick and you get like a 2 out of 10, it's like the funniest thing, you paid for that, dude.
I mean, depending on the guy, he might even be happy. He was like, "Oh, I gotta chew. Chew."
Yeah, or it's like there's that whole like emasculating aspect of like men being like to be talked to like a woman to talk like a lot of shit to them, to talk down to them. Yeah, like I don't get that either, but I'm telling you, it's out there, man. There's a lot out there that I'm just like, oh.
Man, that's crazy. Oh,
Yeah, I know. I threw you for a loop on the dick ratings. It's a lot to wrap your head around. I know.
no, I mean, I'm starting to get a picture of the whole saturated thing, because if that's a thing now, like I saw where did I see that? I think it was like a Netflix documentary or something like that. That the guy he was like in financial ruin, and his family was looking for him, and they found him like 3 hours later. Turns out he was like in the dark in the middle of a parking lot, sending like thousands and thousands to this OnlyFans girls. Like it literally became a crack for him. Like you mentioned crack, like it really becomes a drug for some people. It's
Yeah. There's that whole
Yeah.
it's called FinDom, financial dominance, where women will be like, send me all your money, and these guys are like, sure, and they just send money.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I know. Like I worked hard for my money. Like I went through hell and back for the money that I have. I'm not gonna just give it away. Like I got bills to pay, man.
Vic, so you mentioned that a lot of those girls, they just went independent, right? But correct me if I'm wrong. I know like what's his name again? Oh man, I had his name on Andrew Tate. I think that's his
Yeah.
name. Isn't him?
Yeah.
Isn't he like considered I don't know is the correct word, pimp, but I know he works with girls and those girls works for him and they all work for OnlyFans. So he kind of found a way of staying in the industry even though it changed, right?
Well, there's a lot of controversy surrounding that man and whether or not what he's doing is not by definition trafficking,
Oh,
which is just basically taking a bunch of girls. He even brags about underage girls, which I find like pretty awful. And he just controls them by whatever means necessary. And he gets them to set up OnlyFans. And he's basically being, I don't know, like what's about 10 steps lower than a pimp? Like a pimp gets a percentage. Sounds like this dude is like running them and turning them out. So I don't know, man. There's that aspect of it too. And I guess a reason why he's like in Romania instead of the United States, because I think the laws and the rules and all that in Eastern Europe are a little bit different than they are here statesides in other parts of the world.
yeah, that sounds fishy. Why are you in Romania, Andrew? Like
Yeah.
why?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, look, he's got charges against him. There's a lot going against him. So I don't know. It's I'm sure he's made money, but yeah, okay, if you're a bad person that traffics women, of course you can make a lot of money. There's a lot of money in the sex industry.
How accurate are those accusations? Is there anything concrete or just like people trying to?
Well, I always say where there's smoke, there's fire. And so there's been a lot of heat against him. So I guess we'll wait and see. But I don't know. It's the bravado of it, the bragging of it, what he does in his clips on the internet. That's what makes it a little more skeevy, in my opinion.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good luck, Andrew. Hopefully
Yeah.
you get out of this. Man, I need to ask you because we talk about like more or less the saturation and the end of your career, but we didn't talk too much about the beginning. So you became a pornographer. So what is a pornographer exactly? Are you behind the camera Or
Yeah.
okay.
I guess a nicer way to say it is a content producer, which is what I was. Now, let's back up a little bit. So I grew up outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, had a normal childhood, loved TV, loved movies. After you graduate high school, you're supposed to go to college, which is what I did. And I went to school in upstate New York at Syracuse University. And I went in undeclared. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but they had a really good production program, a production school, communication school, the Newhouse School. And so I worked my way into the school and I got in. And so I got a degree, my first degree in TV and film production. So this is what I was going to do. Then I went south to Miami, Florida, started working in corporate and commercial production as a production assistant, and then as an editor, and then as a producer. And so, I'm working on, the legit side, the mainstream side of things. But the truth is I wanted to do more. I wanted to make TV shows. I wanted to make movies. And the only place you really could do that is in Hollywood, California. So fortune or misfortune would have it that I made my way out there and found myself eventually in financial straits, in credit card debt. And then I answered an ad on, it was called adultstaffing.com. And there was this kid, a Mexican kid with a speech impediment. He had like a stutter. He would stutter all the time when he spoke, but he wanted to make a porn movie and he needed a director. So I bullshitted him, told him I could do it. told him I shot porn before, which I hadn't, but he believed that I did. And so I found myself on that fateful day in April of 2002, almost 20 years ago. No, actually 23 years ago. 23 years ago. And that was my first day of porn. And that started a chain reaction of one person I met, then another person. And then I sort of knew where people were looking for content providers. And so I moved back to Florida and I built up the business. And I was just producing content for people who had adult websites. And then eventually I met the guys who would start Brazzers. And that is when the real story began.
What? You were there? When Brazzers, what? No, we need to know how that went through. What happened?
Okay. So the Brazzers guys were a bunch of like frat bros from Montreal at Concordia University. They knew how to market porn on the internet. Now we're going back to the early parts of the 2000s. The internet is booming, but internet porn is still finding its way. But these guys knew how to market porn. Mm-hmm. And so I would be in a hotel room in Miami shooting a performer. And they would be hitting me up. Do you remember the instant messenger ICQ?
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Okay.
Yeah.
So I would be talking to all these people on ICQ, and I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm in a hotel room. I've got this girl. She's got big boobs," and they were always about big boobs, right? They're like, "Okay, well, can you give us a titty fuck scene for like $200?" So I look at the guy and the girl they're a couple. I'm like, "Hey, dude, you think you got another one in you? Because I'll throw you $100." He's like, "Yeah." And so we do this quick titty fuck scene. And then they take 100, I take 100. And then that was it. And these were guys that would eventually become Brazzers. And so they really liked the work I was doing for them. They liked the price in which I did it for them. They liked the fact that they gave me money and I didn't fuck them over and take their money, and I delivered them a product. And eventually they were starting to do different things like mommy got boobs and baby got boobs. And then they were shooting, they wanted to go to scripted. So they go Dr. Adventures. And I was their guy that they would always just throw a high scene order to. And eventually they were like, "Look, we really like you. We really like the work you're doing, but we want to level up. So if you get out of Florida and you start tapping into the LA performers, we will keep you very busy." So I was out of debt at that point, and I decided, okay, let's roll the dice, but let's not go to LA because I wasn't a fan of LA. So where do I set up shop? Where do you take a big gamble? Las Vegas. And so I bought this house in Las Vegas, a really expensive house I had no business buying, right at the peak of the market. And that was when this really big, huge, inadvertent snowball happened, where it exploded. That's all I can really say. It exploded. and it was really busy. And eventually they launched the site called Brazzers.com. And I was with them from the very beginning.
That's amazing. You should
Yeah.
make a movie out of this. I mean, I know you're making a movie. We can talk about it later, but damn, that's incredible.
Yeah.
How long was
Yeah.
that journey? Like, for how
Uh,
many years have you worked
so,
together?
so I got into Vegas of March of 2006. And unless we were shut down, if there was a moratorium in the business because someone popped positive for HIV, every single month from March of 2006 until March of 2020, I was busy for those 16 years. So it was really crazy how much it exploded. And once they before the earlier scenes were more gonzo style, where it's like the girl's dressed up, she's oiling up her boobs, she's shaking her boobs, that's gonzo. We were shooting a lot of that. But eventually what they wanted to do was tap into the more scripted stuff. And there was Naughty America. They were doing Naughty Office. And like my friend's hot sister and my first sex teacher and all of these things. Well, Brazzers, what they wanted to do was do it better, but incorporate big boobs. So we have the first site, Big Tits at Work. And once I got done that first 10 seed order of Big Tits at Work, everything exploded where it was like, okay, we have so much money coming in. What do you need, Vic, so we can really just elevate? And it just went from there. It went to Big Tits at School and then more and more and more. And then, I bought this house to shoot porn in, but after a certain point, after 15 months, every scene starts looking the same, even though I had an in-house studio. So we start going to different houses. We start renting houses. And then eventually I got a licensed studio in Las Vegas where we were legally allowed to shoot porn. And that's when we were really leveling up. And we were building all of these elaborate sets for classrooms and doctor offices and anything that these guys in Montreal would conjure, I was able to build and deliver. And the place was so huge. It was like 16,000 square feet. So I was directing. I had two other directors. We were outputting 25 to 30 shoots a month, out here under my production shingle. And then, so it kept going. And then these guys become like millionaires. They want to start family. They sell to a guy named Fabian Tillman, who's like this. He was a German entrepreneur that created this software called Nats. And so this dude decided to take Brazzers and make it the porn monopoly. And that's when they started buying up all of the companies in the porn business. And that's really what it became, this huge, big porn monopoly. And so that was how it was. And they kept me very busy. And then he got arrested for tax evasion.
Fabian? Fabian?
Yeah. Fabian, yeah, he gets arrested for tax evasion. You have people from inside the organization buying his shares. You have people outside the organization buying his shares. And then they rebrand and become third ownership MindGeek. That was around 2014. And that's when things really started to turn for the worse. Even though I was outputting my best quality scenes during that time, I grew to hate these guys. I just hated them because they were greedy, they were arrogant, they were chiseling. I mean, I could tell you the first owners, they took care of me. They looked at me like their workhorse. They respected me. They gave me bonuses. These guys are just figuring every other way to just make it tighter and squeeze it and squeeze it and squeeze it. So you're like trying to deliver all of this, but you're working for your money. And that's part of the job sometimes, but by the end of it all, I was like haggard and like crawling towards the finish line. But yeah, that was a 16-year stint in Vegas, which I do detail in my book, Filthy.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
You have a book as well. Like, I thought it was Filthy was the name of the movie we're producing.
No. It's right here. It's called Filthy: The Rise and Pending Death of Vic Lagina. I think what you saw on my website, viclagina.com, is it was supposed to be a movie, but I wound up just using it as a trailer for the book.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Or at least to give people a visual of what it was like, because the project that you saw was intended to be like 6 days of a pornographer. And I shot that literally when I was vacating my studio during COVID, when I was done with Brazzers. And so I shot this thing over 6 days and wound up using like the gold for a trailer. So I encourage people to go there for
All
that.
right, there you go. That's amazing. But man, that's it's very common. I know, like from real life experience, that it happens a lot whenever there's a good founder, a good company that has been going strong for many years, and they have been taking care of all of their employees, and then for whatever reason, those guys go out or they die. There's the new management, right? And they don't. I don't want to say they don't appreciate the people that has been doing the work since forever. It's just they were not around. They have this business mentality. They just want to see numbers, and they want to pay people the least amount of money possible to have the most amount of profit possible. Like I've seen that happen two like 2 or 3 times already, like with people that I know close to me. So
Yeah, well, that's exactly what
yeah.
happened with them. And you know what? Like being greedy, being arrogant, that is not illegal. Um, treating your employees and everyone as replaceable, that's not illegal. But what they were doing with Pornhub, which got exposed in late 2020 after I departed, that differentiated them from just being greedy, arrogant pigs to being the scum of the earth.
What happened?
Okay. So with Pornhub, let's say you were shooting content, right? And you were uploading it to Pornhub to monetize it, right? Well, there wasn't any checks and balances in terms of how old were these people? Was it consensual? Yeah. So with me, every day that I shot for Brazzers or any of their sites, we had incoming interviews where we interview them before the scene is shot. We get their IDs, we get releases, we get exit interviews. We were trained on compliance because this was all mandated because of the credit card companies. Visa, MasterCard were mandating that if you have an adult site, you need to keep meticulous, they called it's 2257 records where you have consensual sex, or else they would not deem the scene compliant and they would not allow it to be released on the website. With Pornhub, you had no such safeguards. So if you're a piece of shit that is filming abuse, that is filming rape, that is filming underage performers, that is filming non-consensual porn, there was nothing stopping you from uploading it onto Pornhub. Now, on Pornhub's ends, they didn't have enough safeguards of people working and viewing all the content to make sure it was compliant. As a matter of fact, they had 3 people working in 10-hour shifts going through literally millions of pieces of content of porn. And only the stuff that was really egregious, that if someone looked like they were like 13 years old, would it be pulled down? But if there was a question mark, it was through. And there was a lot of people who said, look, this I did not consent to this. You're monetizing it, like you're monetizing my abuse, and I need you to take it down. And sometimes it would get taken down only for it to go back up again. And so it was a bad cycle. It wasn't until this New York Times article came out in 2020 where it exposed everything. And Visa and MasterCard pulled the transactions from Pornhub, which in turn forced Pornhub to take down 91% of their content.
91%.
Yeah.
91%. They're not doing any job. They're just allowing everything. That's insane. 91% is almost everything.
Yeah, so that's why I say that the people who were Mind Geek, as that third iteration was called, were the scum of the earth. And I really hope that they get what's coming to them. I mean, they have, because they've sold the company. Now it's under 4th ownership, rebranded for a 4th time in 18 years, now called ALO. So, I mean, look, the truth is the company I worked for was rotten to the core for a while. So when I left, I was okay with it. Like I was at peace with it. You know, it was time. It was really time.
I see. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, you're getting the crash course, man. I'm really educating you today on all of it.
I'm loving it. That's so interesting because I'm not part of this universe, right? So
Yeah.
it's really interesting. So
Yeah.
I my mind is blown. Like you just mentioned that those classrooms, you would build them. You'd rent
Yeah.
places and you build this like.
No.
whole-
I mean,
Go ahead.
when I had my studio, no, we built everything. Everything was a set. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
In my mind, like I've seen those porn sometimes in classroom, in different places. In my mind, you would always rent, but that doesn't make sense. How would rent at school? I think I never even thought about it.
Right. Like no school is going to let you shoot your
Yeah.
porn movie in it. So you have to build. I mean, that's not to say that people like really push the bounds and snuck it in and during after hours and things like that. But to me, it was like, look, man, I'm not getting arrested for this fucking job. So I'm going to make it in a place that even if the cops or anyone came in, we were allowed to do what we were doing. We were sanctioned by the county. Clark County knew exactly what I was doing. We paid them. We got the license. We were allowed to shoot porn. And this was my goal. Like the first day I shot porn, you had people like who were in the condo that we were shooting in smoking crack. And it was
Whoa.
very seedy. Yeah. And so I didn't want to run an operation like that. I wanted to run an operation where everyone's there because they want to be there. We're all there for a common goal to get paid, but to create content that is going to elevate brands or just bring in the next job. And I wanted to have a safe space for people to work in. So it worked well for me. But, porn really didn't escape the Me Too woke era of society. Yeah. And so that to me, even though I was doing everything by the book and there was a lot of safeguards in the place, there was a lot of the younger performers that didn't have really the ability to speak up when they felt that a boundary was crossed. Before, with my generation, the generation after, the performers knew if something was not right, you say no, stop, cut. I stop camera, we talk about it, and then we figure out what the problem is so that everyone is on the same page. What was happening with the younger performers was they didn't really learn how to interact with humans because they were dealing with iPods and iPhones and social media and texting. So, but when you're on an adult site as an adult, you really need to speak up. So what was happening is I'd go through an entire shoot. We would have an exit interview. The performer would say everything was fine. And then I'd hear later that they make a post on Twitter about how they had an awful day on set. And you're like,
What?
I had no idea. Yeah, because they didn't say anything. So that to me was a slippery slope. The company seemed to have my back on instances like that were happening towards the end of my career. But during COVID and around that time, that's when people were like, there are reasons why people don't speak up on adult sets, and we have to take that into consideration. And I'm saying, well, let me get this straight. You want to treat these adult performers having sex on camera, not like adults, but with kids, like as kid with kid gloves, like you're going to make excuses for them. And I couldn't see it. I was like, maybe we shouldn't be shooting them instead of making excuses for them, because a performer needs to know that this is what they're doing with their life. They have responsibilities as well when they step on set, which is making sure everyone knows their limits. And if a limit is crossed, you have to say it during production while the shoot is happening. And there can't be any excuses as to why they felt like they couldn't speak up. So that's where there was friction between me and the company. And I just thought, you know what, man, I made enough money. It's time to go. And so that's how it all began. The end.
Wow, that's so interesting. But the way I see that's more like a people problem. Like some people are like that. It doesn't need to be about like a sex scene or working the sex scene. It's just like how many people that I know that in your face that's like pleasant and they seem to enjoy you, and then turns out they go in your back and talk to their friends how awful like the interaction was. It's just yeah.
Well, think about what's happening on Hollywood sets. Whereas, before, when there was a nude scene or a sex scene between actors, they just kind of worked it out.
Yeah.
Now you have intimacy coordinators.
What? What is that?
That means, you have someone on set, like making sure that both sides are comfortable. And old school actors are like, fuck that. You know what I mean? But you have the younger generation that is much more fragile, and they
he said it. Yes.
Yeah, they are.
They are.
It's just, and that was the whole deal. And look, I was in the business for a while. When I left, I was in like my late 40s. Is this any different than a father having a breakdown of communication with his children, you know, not being able to be on the same page, like this generational gap where the generations don't understand each other. And if that was the case, I'm fine with it. Like in some ways, I realize I was put out into porn pasture. I went the way of the pornosaurus, you know, and I went extinct. And if the porn industry now needs to be run by younger generations that understand each other, I'm at peace with it. It's fine. I don't need to be part of it.
As you said, you made a lot of money, so
Yeah, no, I mean, look, the truth is that the advice that I was trying to tell other people, have a good financial advisor, have a good
yeah.
accountant, and the most important thing, keep your overhead low, keep a low nut, so you don't have to spend so much money a month for your basic necessities like your mortgage and your utilities and things like that. That's where I am. That's why I can, you know, kind of I moseyed into retirement and not have to worry about it.
It's beautiful.
You know?
Vic, I need to ask you because like your day used to be like just watching people having sex all the time, watching porn all the time. Doesn't that desensitize you a little bit? Like at some point, it doesn't. Like imagine you now you have a cool chick that you're seeing for a while, and it's time to have sex with her. Like, is that experience a little bit off now because you're seeing it all the time?
Well, that's a common question, and I'm glad you asked it. But the truth is, for a guy like me that was a producer and a director and a cameraman, and I was doing all these things that was not in the physical acts of sex, it didn't affect me like that.
Oh,
Nor did it affect me in a way where I had to like make it crazier with ball gags and bondage and pegging and all sorts of stuff. Like I was able to keep things pretty vanilla, and I didn't look at it like I have to really get wild in order to get turned on. That was not the case. But I could see that being the case with male performers or sometimes female performers, you know, them going home to their partners and a female performer is like probably the last thing they want is to have another dick in their face at the time. Or a male performer being like, yo, babe, I just fucked twice today. I don't want to have sex again. I mean, that would make sense unless the performer is like a sex addict. And I've seen my share of those as well. But the truth is that for me, it didn't affect me in that way. If it affected me in any way, it was that because I was, you know, sometimes hanging out with performers and I was doing that because that was kind of like the most sensible option at the time. Because when I tried to date civilians, knowing that I was a pornographer seeing naked women all day, a lot of civilians couldn't deal with it.
really?
So yeah, they were intimidated by the fact that I had been around sex so much. So if it affected me in any way, it was in that aspect, but not overall from me personally and my personal tastes or my drive.
I see. So, like, when you say something like random people, you just meet them and say they ask you what you do. Say I'm a pornographer. They're a little bit they
Yeah,
taken back by it.
yeah. I mean, like I'd
Yeah.
say that they would be intrigued because they had a lot of questions and they were curious, and it was like a novelty of sorts. But you know, man, any woman with a good head on her shoulders, a sensible head on their shoulders, is not going to put up with a dude that goes to work every day seeing naked chicks. And I got it. So that's why my love life during my time in the industry was so tumultuous, where you know I chose poorly. I was in dysfunctional relationships until I grew into being comfortable being alone. You know, because you know, when you make compromises, you put up with a lot of bullshit and drama. And I didn't want to do that anymore. So I was very stringent on who I allowed into my personal space and I spent personal time with because I didn't want the drama anymore. So that was my balance until I got out of porn. And now that I'm out, I have a healthy monogamous relationship where the industry does not affect it at all, and I'm very happy. And you know, she's amazing. She's the best thing that ever happened to me.
All right.
So,
So your life seems better now that you are outside of the industry than before.
dude, like that's the thing. And you know, I guess the real like testament of it was in you know normally if we had to like if a performer said they had to cancel, let's say because they were sick or let's say they were having an outbreak of herpes or whatever, right? And I would get one of those texts, I'd be like, oh, I get frustrated. And then, you go into all these modes of trying to fix the problem, getting a performer to fly in last minute and doing all these things so you don't lose the day. Well, towards the end, I remember that I got a text saying a girl was like, she can't make it. She's sick. And the first reaction I had was, great, I don't have to go into work today. And once that happens, I was like, oh, well, isn't that interesting? And, like during the first couple of months of COVID, man, I was waking up every day like elated that I didn't have to go to work and I didn't have to deal with this horse shit anymore. Yeah. So like the writing was on the wall. People who saw me after the fact knew, like, they're like, dude, like you look happy. Like you look like a weight has been lifted off your shoulders. And apparently it was apparent how much I hated my job to everyone but me.
That's so fascinating. Like that happened. I remember, as I mentioned, I had this talk with Lila, the Secret Girl Diaries, in one of our episodes, and she's also like, she all she does is talking about sex. She's always like, she knows sex workers and everything. And I asked her like, how is this life? How is this world and everything? And one of the things she says, like, those girls, they're never fully happy for some reason. I don't know why, but like I don't know. Like, would you understand that phrase, like the affirmation that makes sense for you?
That they're not enjoying themselves, that they're numb, or
Um, I'm making a horrible job of paraphrasing what Lila said, but the way I understood is like it's more or less like you said. It's like dog years. Like it takes a toll on you, right? Because
yeah. Well, there's a definite darkness in it. And you know what? Now that you mention her, I went on her podcast.
Really,
It
you
was
met her?
it was the Curious Girl Diaries.
Yeah, exactly.
with her.
There you go.
She was wonderful, by the way.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, we had a great conversation. Well, yes. And I think, look, when I decided to write this book, well, I started writing the book while I was in porn. It started in 2015, and I was just writing about my journey, and it was really a journal. But when I decided to write a book about it, I felt that even though my life was a shit show that could be intriguing to a lot of people, I wasn't sure it would sustain a reader. So I wrote a lot of side topics about the porn industry in general. And one of the most, I guess, grounding parts of the book is when I talk about the people who died.
What?
The in memoriams. Yeah, of the people that I knew and how they died. And that's really when I realized how much darkness there was in the industry, because when you read their obituaries and you realize how much pain they were in, and that's the reason why they committed suicide or whatever else, it's absolutely correct that there is a darkness within the industry, and a darkness they have to deal with on a daily basis, whether it's being judged, whether it's being, trauma that they have not fully gotten over yet, or just dealing with like online bullying and harassment in the form of social media. It's dark. So yeah, she's absolutely correct in that.
Oh man. Oh,
Yeah, dude. It's not all blowjobs and rainbows, I'll tell you.
But you know what? I do believe in the yin yang. Oh, look, we're going from blowjobs to yin yang. I do believe in yin yang. Everything has a balance. There might be some darkness to it, but dude, you like bring a lot of happiness to a lot of people in in different ways.
Yeah. Well, look, it is about balance. For me, when work became too much, what I would do is go to a music festival and take a lot of hallucinogens and hang out with like happy people and listen to music. And that's what got me from the darkness back into the light. So when I got back from this music festival, I was always like, yes, I am ready to deliver porn to the masses. And I was re-energized for a month, 6 weeks, 2 months, and then I'd have to do it all over again. But yeah, it's a vicious cycle, really.
What is the name of this actor that I think is the bald guy? Everyone says that he had all
Johnny Sins.
Johnny Sims, like, what's up with him? Everyone.
So I shot Johnny Sins in the early part of his career, and I shot him for a very long time. And you know what? Probably a lot of those memes and GIFs out there, I probably shot them.
What?
Oh yeah.
You
When
bet.
he's like the doctor or the teacher or the fireman or any of that. Yeah, like I must have shot, I'd say 400 to 500 scenes with Johnny Sins, probably.
Really? Like,
Yeah.
when it comes to like to being a performer, is he like considered one of the best ones? I mean, he's one of the most known ones for
He,
sure, right?
he is he's one of the most popular, and I would say he would be the one that every female performer would be like, yes, I would love to work with Johnny Sins, or I love Johnny. Because look, muscular guy, good shape. He has a respectable penis for porn and all that. But as far as, and look, I'm not going to tell you that he had like every scene he shot was great. He struggled at times. Okay, he's a human. He's a mortal man, right? But there are certain things like scenes that he wouldn't do. Like he didn't like anal scenes. He didn't like being in orgies. He didn't like being in group scenes. The only group scenes he would like to be in is if he was the only dude and there were like 2 or 3 other girls, right? Like obviously that's all he wanted to do. But when it came to like doing anal, I would not cast him for anal at all because one, he wouldn't take the scene, but two, he didn't like it. So the funny thing is, and here's props to your country and to Europe and to Eastern Europe and Russia, they deliver pound for pound the best anal male performers ever.
Wow.
These guys do not, yeah, they like if I had to shoot an anal scene, like a boy girl anal or DPs, believe me, I would hire like Ramon, who was Spanish, or Mick Blue, who was Austrian, or Marcus Dupree, who was Russian, because these dudes, they like anal and they're like this. They're like, yeah, they're solid. Whereas the soft Americans, yeah, they have a problem with it.
So now I need to ask, what defines a good anal scene? Is the stiffness of your penis?
It's just not getting turned on by the fact that, you know, things could get messy sometimes.
Oh.
There could be a chili dog situation, you know?
I mean, but aren't the girls supposed to wash it beforehand?
Yeah, but you know, sometimes the body is not cooperative. Yeah, and so when that happens, you know, the strong ones, and I'll tell you, there were some strong Americans. Jordan Ash was one. He's no longer alive. He died of a brain tumor in 2020. But yeah, like if he had a chili dog, he would wipe off and then he would get right back into battle and he would not be phased at all. But that was just the way it was. I mean, I don't know. I'd say also the Eastern European female performers were the strongest performers. I found that a lot of the American women were kind of like soft and entitled, and the ones from Eastern Europe, I guess, they didn't have it so well. So when they come to the States, I mean, they're running past their American counterparts by a mile.
Wow, wow,
Yeah.
that's so interesting. I had no idea. Like, so I know that you mentioned early on during our conversation, like, about the guy coming back in home and talking to his girl. Oh, babe, I had like I had sex 2 times, twice. So would you say the average amount of like orgasms or climaxes that performer reached during a regular work day would be two?
Generally one. You
Generally
know,
one.
they
Okay.
yeah, like there were certain performers like Xander Corvus who like when I first started shooting him, he was a younger dude. And even though he partied a lot and like sometimes you could just still smell last night's booze on him, um, if he said like, "Hey man, it's feeling really good. Would you mind if I come once and then get back into it?" And like there's times I'd be like, you know, when he first said that to me, I was like, yeah, right, kid. And sure enough, I said, sure, let's see how it goes. He did it. He was hard again in like in an instant and wound up delivering a second pop shot. So that became like a trademark of sorts with him. Same thing with the aforementioned Jordan Ash. Sometimes so I would shoot him back in the Florida days when he was like a $200 a scene performer. We were shooting in hotel rooms, and sometimes it felt really good, and he would come, and I'd get that pop shot on. He'd be like, "Boss, sorry, but give me 10 minutes." 10 minutes later, he's like this, and he's ready to go again. So it happens, but generally, you got one and done.
I mean, you can just take one of those blue pills, right? And that's it.
Well, it's not a magic bullet, you know.
Oh.
So this is the general trend when it comes to performers and their PEDs, their performance enhancing drugs. So you got a younger performer who's like, always hard and can fuck anything, and that's normal. Eventually that wears out. So then you start going into the Cialis, the Viagra, and all of that. But the problem is, and I always say this, if the big head is not in the game, the little head will not follow. It doesn't matter how much you have. So mentally, a performer needs to be in the game, and in order for that Cialis or Viagra to work. Let's say this guy has been doing it for 10 years and now that's not working anymore. Well, now you level up to what's called the Caverject, which is an injection into the shaft of the penis.
Oh no, come on.
Yeah, I swear. And that gives you like a boner for like 2 to 3 hours, right? And so that's when you get a guy who's in his late 30s, 40s. He's now injecting his dick, and he's getting through a scene. Eventually that stops working. So what is the final phase, you ask? Well, it's the implant, the inflatable implant.
No, you're joking.
I'm not joking. It's like a balloon that's put into the shaft of the penis. There's a button around the grundle area, and they push this button to inflate and deflate the balloon. And when that stops working, it's time to find another vocation.
Oh my god, the mental scene that I have. No.
Dude, this is why I wrote a book, because all of it's in there, man. Like this knowledge that I have, it couldn't die with me. So that was the reason why I decided to release this book, because there's a lot of people that don't know this stuff. They think, they watch porn, but they have no idea what may have gone into the making of that porn that they're watching. So I wanted to really show that for people.
What's your view on casual porn? Because casual porn has nothing of the amateur porn, let's say. There's nothing of that. It's just like random people filming themselves. Like, did you see that, or used to see that as concurrence, or?
Yeah. Well, listen, I'd say in the earlier days, people would, when I was a content provider, they would say, yeah, we want you to shoot more amateurs. You have amateurish couples. I was like, sure. And like, literally it's a tripod with two people fucking. And sometimes that's enough for people. But, if you really look at the niches that are involved in porn across the board, there really is something for everyone. And people's tastes run the gamut, man. Like, they're into a lot of things: balloons, dressing up as a baby, food porn. I mean, you name it, there's something that people are interested in.
Yeah, I think there's this quote: if it exists, there's porn of it, right?
There's a term. It's like Article 49 or something. I think I've heard something like that's the actual like terminology of it, where if it can be porn, it shall be porn. Yeah.
All right, Vic. So you mentioned that you have a book. Where people can find you? You also have a website.
Yeah. So go to viclagina.com. On there is the trailer that we were talking about earlier. It stars James Duval. He's an indie actor who was playing me, Vic Lagina. And there are performers in that trailer as well. Porn star boobies. So if you like boobies and you like porn stars, go check out the trailer. But there you can decide if you like a physical book. This process took 8.5 years for me to do it from start to finish. I talk a lot of shit in the book, so I had to spend a lot of money on lawyers so I could release it in a way that did not castrate the book. But if reading, you don't have time for it, I suggest the audiobook. It's on Spotify, it's on Apple Books. I narrate it, but some of the things I talk about, like the prologue, epilogue, I actually use sound bites from the actual shoots in the audiobook. And it's a very fun experience, and it goes down quicker. So I tell people, if I've got to pick, spin the audiobook, because it really sets the tone for this whole project. And of course you can get it on Kindle, but yeah, go to viclagina.com, and that's where you could get your education on porn.
Beautiful. And eventually a movie in the future. I think that would be fun as well. I mean, the little teaser that you have on your website is already really fun.
Good, good. Oh yeah, that was the whole point. Like I have bigger goals, man. You know, being from production, I would love to see this being made into a movie or a TV show, because I quite frankly think that any movie, aside from Boogie Nights, that tried to tackle porn usually misses the mark. But this right here, it's true. It all happens, and it's done in a way where it's not boring for 1 second. So it really is the way to go if you want to do something like of this nature.
Beautiful. Vic, do you have any final remarks? Anything else that you'd like to say?
No, if people want to talk to me on Instagram or X, I am at Vic Lagina. I love to hear from people who read the book. I love interacting with people. So yeah, man, I'm doing a lot of these podcasts. So thank you for having me on and being receptive to learning about all of this.
Oh, thank you. It was a lot of fun.
Yes.
All right, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe and comment, and you might win this beautiful t-shirt. We're gonna announce the winner at the end of the month, so stay tuned. See you next time, everyone. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. If it's your first time watching the show, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please rank the show 5 stars. This will ensure that the podcast is recommended to even more people and allow me to keep doing what I love. Check out now the BruCast store, Explore store, filled with awesome goodies from hoodies to t-shirts to mugs. We've got you covered. Stay in style with BruCast. Embrace the shock, set the trend. Buy now at bru-cast.com/store. Again, that's bru-cast.com/store. Link on the description below. Be a BruCast model and get free stuff. We'd love to see how you and your loved ones enjoy BruCast. Snap a picture of yourself, your family, your friends, or even your pets wearing BruCast merch, or watching an episode of the show and send it to us and become part of BruCast. We'll feature you and your pictures at the end of every episode, just like the ones you're seeing on the screen right now. You can upload your pictures at bru-cast.com/contact or tag us on social media. Alright everyone, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much and see you next time. Bye bye.